I think I posted it and it had it'd been up for 24 hours. And then after that, it just, something happened and it went up to, overnight, it went up to about 2 million, I think.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmin.
And we started an online community called Ecomm Girls Club because we had no friends.
Well, no, we had friends, just not friends working in e-commerce, D2C marketing and brand building like us.
And now we do. Ecomm Girls Club is the first international community exclusively for girls in e-commerce, and we have a lot to say about it.
So we started a podcast. We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
And we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it. Well, hello. It's so nice to be back with a guest for the first time in ages. And we have a very special guest today, Celeste Hartley, who, I'm going to try and do an intro, but then we're going to let you do one too, because we won't do you justice. But Celeste is a very good friend of mine. And the main reason we asked her to come and join us today is she has achieved something that pretty much any brand owner or anyone on social media is trying to achieve, which is constantly going viral on TikTok, which we want to talk to her about how she kind of got to that point and social media in general. But also Celeste is a wonderful and loved member of Ecomm Girls Club and is on her freelance journey. So it would be super interesting to talk to her about that and how that's all going as well. But before I do you a disservice, Celeste, do you want to introduce yourself?
That was lovely. Thank you.
That's pretty good.
I can follow from that. But yes, hello. I'm very, very thrilled to be on the podcast. I feel like I was quite early on in Ecomm Girls. So
day one.
I think you were one of the very first.
Yeah. I've actually got my Ecomm Girls Club.
Oh, she's got the
cup.
I am obsessed. I use this every day. I love it.
Same. It's a staple.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's been a wild ride over the last sort of 10 years. But I've always had a background in marketing, and used to be a full-time brand manager for mainly like FMCG brands and stuff. And then have had like multiple quarter life crisis periods where I've sort of thrown it all up in the air and gone and done something completely different. Yeah. And so quit that, went and did a ski season, and then went traveling around Europe for a bit, and then came back and sort of fell into freelance work, and have now built Celeste Studio, which some people might think it's not great to call it after your name, but it's a good name, so I don't really know.
Why not? Yeah.
I named my agency after my surname, so you're fine. You're in a safe space.
I think it's a great idea. I honestly don't see any reason why not with like brand
when
or
you have
agency.
a great name.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows me, which is actually, I should have thought about this because I'm wearing pink, but my sort of colour is blue, which is the meaning of Celeste is blue. So it all makes sense.
Oh,
yeah.
Now it really makes sense. I just thought you were blue.
So yeah, now I have my own sort of brand consultancy agency, which I work, it's like freelance work. And then on top of that, have some sort of very natural business from TikTok that happened quite by accident.
I was going to start with like asking you really sensible questions about TikTok and how to scale and all this stuff, but I feel like we should actually start with the tea, which is like you going viral several times. And I think there's 3 main ones, right? There's 3 times that it's all like kicked off. And I would say as well, like one thing that I've noticed that's great about Celeste is you seize opportunities. So maybe we start with your love letter to womanhood.
I loved this, by the way. I was like so obsessed with this. I thought it was epic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was the most fulfilling thing that's ever happened to me, honestly, because I've been on TikTok for a long time, sort of because I have always had a background in marketing. But even before that, I was obsessed. Like when I was younger, I was obsessed with YouTube. When like Jay Alvarez and stuff came out, and it was like that new it was almost like the start of the influencer generation. And I thought I was going to become a YouTuber. Like, I had one of those cameras right back in the day, and actually weirdly did have a successful video on YouTube about going to Bali. But anyway, so I was always like very, very into content creation. And so I've been on TikTok for a long time and just been posting randomly for a while. And then this poem, I'd just broken my leg. I was in A&E and I was writing. It's not a good place to be inspired, but I was in A&E and I was writing a poem for my friend's birthday. And what I really wanted to capture, and I can remember thinking, like, I just really want to be able to capture that like essence of female friendship, because there is nothing in this world like it. I just genuinely believe that even with a partner, I don't think you're going to get the sort of unconditional love that females can give each other. And so, yeah, and then I just posted it on TikTok because I think in the back of my mind, I kind of know roughly what's going to, create that sense of community. And then I was sat on my sofa with my friend and my phone was just going off and I was like, what is going on? And then it was just like racking up views and comments and all of these girls tagging their friends.
How quickly did that happen after posting it?
I think I posted it and it had it'd been up for 24 hours, and then after that it just something happened and it went up to overnight, it went up to about 2 million, I think.
Whoa, that's insane.
That's crazy.
But what I will say is every day that goes up on that still. And also I reposted that poem with like a different cover image about 8 times and all of them did well.
Really?
So don't feel on TikTok, what I will say is don't feel like you've done one thing and it's performed really well and then you've got to move on.
Yeah.
Repeat the formula.
So
and so what do you think out from the formula that you've obviously got that works? What about that is working? Like, what do you think it is that people are picking up on time and time again on that same piece of content?
I mean, I think the hook, like, because I do it as 2 like photo carousels, and to be honest, photo carousels work for me. Like, whenever I do video content on TikTok, it flops, which obviously isn't the case for some people.
Yeah.
But I think you've just got to find what works. But then it's like the hook on the first image. And I do think the caption on carousels is very important. But I think, honestly, it's just that female piece is so prevalent on
the
TikTok.
chord, right?
And to create that community and also creating a space where people can share with their friends or feel comfortable to share with their friends. And that poem just did that. And I think the poem itself, I hope it just resonated and it just touched that connection point that women can have.
I love that.
So, yeah.
I have a question around like the type of language that's used on TikTok versus Instagram. So like, I'm a full-on Instagram girl. I have really always shied away from TikTok. It still scares me, but it's also really
you're
necessary.
good at it though. I see things.
No,
you are good
I'm
at
not.
It. Don't knock yourself.
I mean, thanks, but I'm not.
Don't say this. Tell you all.
But like, the views don't lie. Literally.
Well, I'm in a country where
good,
TikTok's
Luce.
blocked, so you can ignore me.
It's also just like I'm finding it so demoralizing to the point where like I was posting on TikTok every day, and not for my own profile, my own platform. This is all for Cloth Project, which is obviously a brand. Because like absolutely realize the opportunity there and the potential, and there are so many brands capitalizing on TikTok. So I kind of started posting every day, just testing different like formulas and things that might work. Picked up some traction on pictures, like picture carousels, which did really well. And exactly like you just said, Celeste, videos for me just completely flopped, literally like 100 views, which is so depressing, but also it is what it is.
Also, the amount of effort it takes to go into a video as well, right? It's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more work.
But like what I'm finding is I don't really know how to speak the language. So when you talk about captions, how is the language? Can you like just give an example of maybe a post that you've posted on TikTok and a caption that you would put with it? And then I guess the audience can kind of detect how that would then differ from language we would use on Instagram.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a good other viral moment that I can touch on that I've had, which was kind of even more bonkers. And it was how I met my now boyfriend.
This is my favourite story.
Basically, I went to, and none of this was done for TikTok, but I started talking to this boy. I don't actually know if he's in the flat right now, but but yeah, so I was talking to Hinge, and he was British, but he lived in Spain, which was kind of intriguing because obviously I'm a flight risk, so I quite like having the option of moving.
Again, aren't we all on this call?
Fixed abode in 6 months, no worries.
Yeah. So we started chatting, and then it basically became apparent that I probably did need to go out to Spain. So went out on a first date to Spain to meet him, and obviously the marketeer in me was like, oh, this could be a funny story. So posted it on TikTok, and I think this is a good example of like a hook. So on the video, rather than going, oh, I'm going to Spain on a Hinge date, I put, when London dating is so bad that you have to go international, and that sort of leans into a problem that a large majority of people are having.
And it's quite funny as well, right? Like, it's a funny way of looking at it.
And tells that story in the same way that, like, on an image carousel, say, I think on that caption, what you want is to allude to something but not tell them. So something could have happened if you do like a weekend roundup, say something could have happened in the weekend that's like kind of dramatic, and you would just put something about that in the caption, like, I don't know, not me nearly getting hit by a car or something. So then people are like intrigued to move through it.
Okay.
Those are just two examples. But what I will say on the Instagram versus TikTok point, it's interesting that you say that about being scared of TikTok, because I'm terrified of Instagram. And the sort of analogy that I always use is like, if I was to give them personas, I think TikTok would be your like hype girl, supportive best friend, and Instagram would be like the mean girl that sort of sits there and watches your story but doesn't like any of your posts.
Okay,
do you know what I mean? I think TikTok, there's so much more room for connection than Instagram, so I definitely wouldn't be afraid of it. But I get why, because it's very disheartening when things don't perform well.
In terms of going to Spain for your first date, though, did that perform? Is that your like biggest to date kind of viral moment? Or
in terms of reach, probably, because it obviously got picked up by the press. So, but
there's nothing I love more when the Daily Mail link came up. It was so good.
I mean, I just want to say that most of the information in those articles is not factually correct. Like, we did not get matching. But yeah, I think on TikTok specifically, the Womenhood poem was the biggest. Yeah, the most views I've ever got. Yeah, so
I was going to say that with kind of going viral, and obviously like it's a lot of noise and a lot of attention, how do you deal with, because obviously I think you're doing it as your personal brand, I guess, you personally, how do you deal with like the backlash? Because I'm assuming, well, I've seen evidence that not everything that gets said is nice and things like that, and I know that happens on Instagram too, but I feel like the volume on TikTok is just like way more, and I've never had that experience, but I can imagine it's quite overwhelming.
Yeah, especially when you've got Daily Mail readers coming at you.
Oh my God.
The comment section must have been wild.
I mean, to be honest, my corner of the internet is so beautiful. And I feel, even since I've just moved down to Hastings and had some traction about that, and I've just had so many messages from girls saying, like, if you ever need to go for a coffee, or inviting me to run clubs and things like that. So I was always very fortunate in that it was a very loving space. However, yeah, the Hinge date stuff really did cause some controversy. And I think, I mean, most of it, I will say, was from men. And I kind of like to imagine that man just being some sad little old man in his dressing gown and like sat on a laptop. Yeah. So I think it's just important to remember, like, that those, if you don't hold value in those people, it doesn't put any value towards what they're saying. And I think I've spent a long time building up who I am as a person, so that when strangers or people on the internet say things about me, I just think, you don't...
I mean, I think as well, like, I read this quote once, it was like, you're always going to be the villain in someone's story, right? And even, I think anything you do, unfortunately, like in today's world, anything online, you are going to get criticism. We've even had it for like 3 months in, we had
someone trolling us on LinkedIn of all places. And like, but it's just part of the course, unfortunately. Like someone's going to find something wrong with what you're doing. But I think the point about holding value is really important.
I do think you have to piss some people off to be yourself.
Yeah, you do.
So, and you've just got to have
also, well, yeah, a thick skin. I think you kind of learn to like deflect, and like you just said, like, do you really value these people on a deep level? And if so, then it's kind of it has a different impact to if you don't value these people, and also who are they? But I think like with anything, whether you are building a personal brand on TikTok or Instagram, or you're building a consumer brand or an agency, like we see it a lot with the girls that are in our community, they're building their personal brand in order to kind of promote their businesses. You're kind of exposing yourself and your personality, and that's a really, really scary thing to do, because like you just said, you're going to piss some people off, or not even piss people off, but tall poppy syndrome is a thing. You know, people don't like to see others do better. Some people don't like to see others do better than themselves, you know, and you see it often where people will be your biggest cheerleaders and biggest fans until they start to feel somewhat threatened by what you're doing. And I think, you know, you do kind of pick up on these signs and signals the more you put yourself out there, and you do develop a certain resilience. But that just comes with time, doesn't it? And I think the key is to not stop what you're doing, just to keep going.
People that are happy and content in themselves do not insult. And that's all you've got to think when people are being nasty to you. It's like that feels like a you problem.
Massively. That's basically what I was going to say as well, is like, I think to an extent as well, is like things like Ecomm Girls Club, we obviously love producing content and like talking about it and stuff like that, but it's also part of what we do. It's part of Yasmin and I's like job description effectively for the business, because it's how we can help more people and reach more people. And I think that also helps when you know like there's a reason you're doing it, because it kind of is more important than like worrying if I look cool or silly or whatever, right? And also I do think like once you do it once, it's the same with everything, right? You do it once and then the next time you're like, oh, this was fine, and you just like build up that kind, it's like a muscle, like everything, right? If you do it regularly and you post regularly, it doesn't seem scary.
I think as well now, like because of the culture and the climate of social media, like it's a lot more commonplace for just people who, even if you don't have a brand or a business, to just be kind of using Instagram and TikTok on a much more frequent basis, just because it's super accessible and it can be fun if you find ways to do it, like you found with TikTok.
Yeah, I think as well, like anyone who's sitting on the fence or feeling nervous about it, if you are someone that is going to sit back and judge someone else for trying something new and putting themselves out there, in the bin. Like
straight in the bin.
No time for that at all. And two, you are one brave decision away from going viral or having success or connecting with people that you might have never connected before. So, and anyone that's going to tear you down for that, just room 101, in the bin, not into it.
Honestly, like I was going to say, like I've had, since I probably only started like posting more regularly on things, or like even talking to like a story, which Yasmin encouraged me to do, so thank you, Yasmin. But so many more opportunities have come my way since posting regularly on like LinkedIn and Instagram. Like it is, you have to be out there and like be seen, right, to get the opportunities a lot of the time.
And I do think like this, sorry no,
I'm done.
Well, I was going to say, I think this concept of virality is, I don't know, I think we kind of need to pull away from going viral as being a goal. I don't think that's where you see real long-term benefits from social media, be it Instagram or TikTok. I think it's a compound effect, and consistency is key, right? Like, exactly. You hear of brands, and actually Amy from Odd Muse, she spoke about this on her podcast that she did with Grace Beverly, because obviously Odd Muse is a massive TikTok brand. That's where they kind of gained their traction and awareness initially. But she actually said like using TikTok as a platform to kind of grow sustainably for a brand isn't necessarily the right way to go. Like you can get these viral moments, but I don't know, Celeste, maybe you can kind of talk more to this point, but the audience on TikTok seem to be like not as sticky. So like they'll see something, they'll love it, but then they are quickly kind of moving on to the next thing. So maybe not using virality as a goal.
100% totally agree. Like, and this obviously have the side of me that does the poetry and everything like that, but the brand manager side of me would always say that to brands. They, you know, so many people come to me and they go, we want to go viral, and I'm like, there's no legs to that though. Like, because what happens, you have a video that gets 1 million views, say, and like, yes, that might generate sales for your business, but is that creating community? No. And the community, as you say, comes from that consistency. And obviously I'm like sort of trained in like more traditional marketing. I've learned TikTok just because I've had to. But, and you do see like now a lot of D2C brands and stuff are being born through TikTok, and the fact that people on TikTok are very, very ready to purchase, you know, TikTok shop, all of that stuff. And it's like that overconsumption is rife at the moment. And that's not something that I, like my brand consultancy business, we would not work with that. Like, we're looking to build sustainable long-term brands that have a real story behind them that can connect people. And so I think, as you said, rather than thinking about how can we go viral, it's taking it back and going, okay, what's the story we're trying to tell? Who are we trying to tell it to? And how are we going to keep telling a story like that that resonates with the audience that we're trying to reach? And that's how you build community. It's a long game, 100%.
Yeah.
No, I think that is like, it's one of those things where no matter what kind of sphere of marketing you're in, like people always want to hear there's a quick win, right? It's just like human nature. You want a quick win for anything and like cut corners. But at the end of the day, it normally is just like consistency. Like I was also thinking about in terms of podcasts, even if you go right back to like Diary of a CEO and you scroll back to the first episodes, Stephen Bartlett did not have famous guests, and he did not have like, you know, if you look at old like view things, like it wasn't a huge success. He was going for like 2 years before it really took off. And it's just like, it's the same with anything, right? Although on the flip side, one thing I do love, and this is like the ecom girl in me about TikTok, is when something goes viral and you can like quickly turn it into like, take the opportunity and turn it into something magical and even like generate revenue, which Celeste very much did. So I don't know if you want to just talk through that, because I just find it such a like inspiring story of like why we basically love working online, because these things do happen and they're just like magical moments.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the really annoying thing and be like, it was never about the money, but it really wasn't ever about the money.
I believe.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, but it really was about the money.
No, I mean, that was a happy coincidence. And to be honest, just to know that people wanted to have my poem on their wall was enough. But yeah, so when it was going viral, there's a lot of comments of people saying, I need this as a print, blah, 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 blah. And so I, like many people in ecom and D2C, have had many ideas in my life that have failed. Well, not failed. We've tried them and we've moved on. So I have looked into starting brands, tried to start brands for the last sort of 10 years. And so I knew how to set up a D2C brand quite quickly. So overnight, I mean, I was up all night basically, setting up a Shopify website, and I already had lots of ideas of what I wanted to call a brand if I had it and things like that, and the concept. So I just had to do it in sort of 12-hour time period, and then linked Shopify with a print on demand company. And after sort of several breakdowns, launched this website, and people started buying them,
including me. I bought one for that.
Yeah. Do you know what though? Like, even that, just that one line of like, I linked Shopify to a print on demand. So like that in itself, you said it so effortlessly, but like I know how stressful that was. Like sourcing, speaking to them, getting it integrated, getting it set. Like there's a whole operation in that, and you did it all within like 24 hours. To me.
I mean, luckily I had a broken leg, so I don't really have much else
to go anywhere anyway.
But yeah, so that was pretty insane. And then I had a couple of basically, this is also weird, but on TikTok, obviously you have different audios that you can use, and on one of the videos I used an audio of this girl that was sort of circulating, and it was a girl talking to her friend on the phone, just saying, hey love, like just wanted to check in, blah blah blah. Very sweet audio. The girl whose voice it was in the audio messaged me and said, oh my god, I've seen your poem, and then I heard my voice on the video. How weird is that? Turns out she's got quite a big Instagram following. So I sent her a print that sort of blew it up even more. So yeah, and then to be totally honest, that's kind of just been running itself, because it's that they do all the fulfillment and everything.
The
But I've
ecom
had
dream, Celeste.
common dream.
Can you share any details on like how many units you sold?
I'll give you in the first week of that going viral, I think I sold upwards of like 2,000, but
Wow.
with no, I mean, it's just from one video. So
Oh my God. That's
yeah,
amazing.
and I had so many people. I had lots of people who knew of me, like through school or something, whose friends would give them the poem. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. And then I had lots of people messaging me saying, "Oh, I've just bought it for my friend who's going through a breakup," or all of this stuff. So it was just so beautiful because I just love women. So to be able to facilitate that was a dream come true, really.
We need to have you as a brand ambassador for Ecomm Girls Club because we too love women. You
Shout.
be the poster child for us.
Oh, please. 100%.
Have you got it set up on TikTok Shop? I'd really like to talk about TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
And your experience with that.
I don't have it set up on TikTok Shop, which, to be honest, is out of pure lack of time, which isn't a great excuse. But obviously, I have my whole other business to run. So, but I actually had another video that was quite successful, which was when I first dyed my hair ginger. I mean, and
I remember that.
Yeah,
back in the day.
I posted back in the day. That was the first one.
That was a while ago.
What's your hair colour? Sorry, just out of interest.
Mousy browny blonde.
People are going to be thinking, like, wondering.
No, I feel like it's key. It's information the audience does need to
Context.
know. So.
Yeah. But yeah, so I had this video. I basically texted my friends and I was like, I'm going to dye my hair, and sent them a photo of the hair box tie, and they said, do not do that. No, put the box down. And then I said, I bought it, and then I put that on TikTok, and then everyone was like, we need a reveal, blah, blah, blah. And God, I've completely lost my train of thought.
We were talking about TikTok Shop, and then you were like, yeah.
So then, because I had all of these views coming in from that, and I had been posting consistently, they invited me to be like a TikTok creator. So I could see the back end of TikTok Shop. So I could see like all the affiliates side of it. And so because this is quite early days, when all these products started going viral on TikTok, and you're seeing so many people talking about them, and you're thinking, God, I need those like gummy flower hair clips or whatever. And trust me, even as someone who works in marketing, I am buying all of those things. But I could see which of those products was actually just being pushed through the affiliates links. And yes, so I can talk about TikTok Shop even though I don't sell on it.
So I guess I have a question around like price points on TikTok and like selling, because from my experience, so like Cloth Project's obviously a premium position brand. So our retail prices are in excess of like 85 and they go up to £145. I keep hearing that people on TikTok are like bargain hunting. So like everybody just wants a deal. I'm seeing that to be the case with like even those flower hair clips. I think you can get them for like £2 or probably cheaper. So like, what's your position on brands with high price points trying to sell on TikTok? Do you think there's a space there for them or not?
Yeah, I mean, this is the side of TikTok that I don't love, to be honest. That like overconsumption side of things.
Product.
Yeah. And it really does, a lot of it feels like a glorified shopping channel, to be honest. And yeah, as a marketer that tries to build like long-term brands, it's not great. So I would agree with the fact that people are just looking for a bargain. And I think to get people to purchase in-app, it has to be at a lower price point. But I think what I would say is, and this is true of any platform, the people that you want to reach will pay that money.
Yeah.
But I think it's less likely on TikTok than it would be with Meta. But don't take my word for that, because I don't have any facts to back that up. But just
and then there's like, I was gonna say like Odd Muse would be a exception. There are exceptions to that, right? Because if Odd Muse was like heavily TikTok, like they're not cheap.
Yeah.
But even like when I
TikTok shop though,
I thought they were.
I actually don't know. Like, I wonder if people are, because obviously
maybe that's just awareness.
what people are sharing and what goes viral is like they just like the videos. But I would really love to know, do they actually sell many products in app on TikTok? Because obviously it's like, well, I don't know how much, like £100.
It sounds like very unscientific and probably silly, but like even when I think of the platforms, I think of Instagram as where I would go to find premium products, and TikTok where I would go to, like, that's just even in my head when I think, like, if I was looking for like jewelry, I would go to Instagram. Whereas if I was looking for like hair bubbles or like something like small, like plastic, basically, I would go to TikTok. Just mentally when I think it through. I don't know. I feel like most people would be the same.
I think the stat is though at the moment that like 68% of consumers that see a brand on TikTok will go and search it outside of the app.
Oh yes, I've heard about this.
So it is still
like a brand awareness channel
for awareness.
Yeah,
top of funnel stuff, right?
Again, it all comes down, like with TikTok and brands, you have to do the work at the beginning before you start posting content, and that work is figuring out who your audience are, the problems that they're having, and how you want to speak to them and how they want to be spoken to. Because time and time again, you see these brands who are obviously like, oh, we need to get on TikTok, and then they just start doing trending sounds or trying to jump on trends that don't resonate with their audience. And so if you haven't done that beginning piece, and social media as a whole has changed so much over the years, like you can't just start posting pretty content, you have to have strategy behind it.
Yeah, I actually saw this video on TikTok, and she was like a brand strategist, TikTok strategist, and she was like, everyone's asking me, like, do I need to be posting 3 times a day? Because you keep hearing this, like, post 3 times a day on TikTok for consistency and growth. And she's like, no, if you've got no strategy. She's like, there's literally no point even posting 20 times a day if you've got 100%. No strategy. Like, yes, at least 3 times a day if you've got core pillars and whys behind each piece of content. So like, I took a lot from that, I think.
I also think, and like this is something I always say to clients as well, whether it's for UGC or consulting, like I think it's really important to think of all your social channels holistically, because you see this all the time. If you've got TikTok and it's great, if they go to your Instagram and it looks crap, like they're not gonna buy, you know, like, so you have to think of it as like the customer journey across the platforms. And it's the same, we've talked about this before, but with like paid media versus organic, like you can have amazing paid ads, right? But if they go to your feeds and it looks rubbish, it's going to put off the consumer's going to be put off by it, right? So I think it's like important with any brand, you need to like take a step back and think about all the channels you're using and making sure that it's quite seamless, like aesthetically between them.
And again, like even before you've even thought about posting on social media or launching a brand, and it's the same with like if for a personal brand or just how you navigate the world, if you want to come across in an authentic way, you have to figure out who you are first, because no one else is going to be able to resonate with you if you can't resonate with yourself. And I think so many brands forget that and get excited in the execution of it. And the brands that do well understand themselves and their audience first before doing anything.
So true. On like a personal level, is there anything you've posted that you've like regretted posting, like anything that's gone big? Is there anything that you wish you hadn't posted, just because you do produce a lot of content? Always wonder, like,
it's not that I regret posting it, but I think with Jack and the whole Spain story, obviously everyone wanted updates. After a while, it felt inauthentic to continue posting about it, because what was happening between us was like an offline genuine connection. And to be honest, a lot of couples that I see on social media, it feels a little like Black Mirror, where I'm like, you're recording these intimate moments and there's like a tripod set up and it just feels a bit off. And so we were navigating like quite a complicated situation, and so I don't regret posting any of it, but there came a point where I was like, okay, we're going to take this offline now and keep it between us.
And I think that makes sense. And it's also like, whether you're just starting posting or you've been posting on platforms for ages, like your boundaries change, right, throughout time, depending on where you are. Like I've got friends who were like posted everything about their life, and then they had children and they don't show their kids' faces. You know, like your boundaries are naturally going to change depending on your life. And I think one thing, it's like really basic, like
day one of like primary school basic, but like you can't take back what you put online. Like there's always receipts. So you see it happen so much. It's just like you do have to be quite mindful, I guess.
Yeah. And again, like, what is the reason for you posting it, you know? And I think social media there's so much opportunity for connection, but there's so much opportunity for comparison and not misleading people. But I think being honest about things is important, because we all know that social media is smoke and mirrors, but yeah, sometimes that can get a bit blown out of proportion, and I think some people are doing it for the wrong reasons.
Agree.
Very, very much so. Very much so.
Have you seen that thing that's going viral at the moment about that running influencer on TikTok?
No, the influencer that you mean, the brunette.
Well, apparently there's all this controversy because there's this girl that does those videos where she's running and she's like 1 kilometre in, 2 kilometres in, and apparently she's just getting in a car and driving, thing which is hilarious. Everyone's trying to figure out who it is, basically.
Do you know what that reminds me of though? Like, I'm just outing my brother here, but you know Duke of Edinburgh, the like hiking thing at school? Or, like, I think the weather was so bad that my mum just picked him and his group up and like drove them to like 500 meters from like the finish point, because like, I mean,
fair enough.
I was like, I didn't do it. I was like, yeah, fair.
Doing it for likes and shares.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. I mean, I have like millions of questions, but we will literally be here all day. So we will tie off on, we basically ask every guest 2 questions. I'll ask the first one, Lucy asks the second one. So the first question is, what is the single best piece of career advice you've ever received?
Best piece of career advice: be okay with not being good at things.
Hard relate.
One boss of mine that I always talk about because she's so inspiring, but she basically told me that she was terrible at public speaking, and she couldn't come to terms with it, so she went and did stand-up comedy. She's not funny at all, and she won't mind me saying that, but she went and did stand-up comedy and tanked, but she is now one of the best public speakers that I know.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I love that.
That gives me a lot of hope, because I'm horrendous at public speaking. I hate it.
Fake news. I'm going to start telling you off again.
It's fake news. That's so true.
Okay. And the other question that we ask everyone is, name a D2C or ecom brand that you think is killing it at the moment and why, but it can be from any industry.
Okay. You're going to laugh when I say this because I bang on about them all the time at the moment, but Hertility.
Yes,
I haven't.
I've actually done one of their things.
Really cool.
Have you? Well, I would love to catch up about that, because they, in terms of getting someone to spend at a high price point online, they are killing it. Their paid ads are so good. They deeply understand their audience and the problems that women have. And to be honest, as someone that has had a lot of health problems in the last few years and had a lot of frustrations with the GPs in the UK, I felt more seen by what they're doing than anything else I have in the last year. So
I completely relate to that. Me too.
Yeah, I think their content is excellent.
Yeah,
I agree.
Oh, what a great answer. Thank you so much, Celeste. I feel like I've learned loads in the last 40 minutes. So thanks so much for coming on.
No, thanks for having me. It's so good.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with the Ecomm Girls Club, search for @Ecomm Girls Club on Instagram. And if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @Yasmin Sheik and @LucyCG.